In this video series on farm life, we're going to be building a 1,728 square foot woodworking shop complete with a kitchen and a bathroom. Now, this whole building is going to be primarily built by two guys in their free time on weekends and a few days during the week here and there when we can take off of work. So join us along on the journey and, let's get building.
Okay guys, we just finished laying out the footing and we basically squared it up. And to do that, this is a 36 by 48 building. And we basically took a triangle and calculated the third leg of the triangle, which is the hypotenuse, which comes out to 60 feet. So we got 60 feet corner to corner both ways, basically means it's square, 36 on each end and 48 on the sides. Now we're ready to start marking it. And Jack will grab the excavator tomorrow and he'll dig these footings and we'll do the pour. So what we're doing, we know for a fact that 60 feet is the inside corner. So we want to have some reveal on the footing, inside and outside. So I'm keeping about 3 inches on the outside. I'll have 3 inches on the inside. So we have 3 and 3 and 6 with an 8-inch wall. You got 6 and 8. It's going to give you 14 inches approximately. So we'll probably dig these footings around 14 to 16 inches to give us a little buffer for any mistakes on any square along the way. So, and what I'm doing here is running this on the outside of the line, which again is about 1.5 inches, and then another, 1.5 inches or so. So, once we finished laying out all the lines, we went back and double checked. We double checked square, 60 feet. We double checked the length and the width, 48, 36, everything came out perfect. Again, I recommend double, triple, quadruple checking because once you dig and pour the footing, you can't change it. So we got it right, and of course we're happy hour time, so we're gonna drink a beer, go relax over at the farm, and that's it. See you tomorrow. So today we're starting to dig the footing. We're using a transom to keep on the right level. And since we have a slope, Jack, if you'll video back, you'll see the slope uphill. We're going to do steps on the way. We're going to do 8-inch steps every 12 foot. So we'll have 8-inch steps every 12 foot. So we'll have 3 of them in total. We're getting ready to go to the first step. We're marking them off so it'll be nice and at 8-inch increments. So when we lay the block will actually lay in there really nice. So we're getting ready to do the first step, and then we'll move on back, and then we'll do the second and the final step.
So what we're doing here is, again, we're just digging the footing. Mr. Dobbins, the guy in the white shirt, he's constantly checking the grade with the transit we have set up just to make sure we're not digging too deep or not digging deep enough.
So Jack, we got the south side of the footing done. Now we're now going to go to the east side and get the front of the garage done, or the farm building. But what's important is you can see as you look down the footing, we've stepped it once. There's a second level, and here's the third level. We were going to do 4 before, but we ended up doing just 3 levels, 2 steps. It's going to make it a little easier for us overall, and we'll make sure to keep it real solid. So we're going to start this east side footing, and we'll get this dug out. We'll keep the east and the west footings all the same depth. And again, when we go to the north, we'll drop that down a couple of times. Jack, we've got the footings dug. Now we're going to clean out the corners, clean up the steps. You're moving, using your little compact loader there, moving the dirt around, getting it leveled out. Once we get this all done and packed in, then we'll be ready to lay the rebar. And shortly thereafter, we'll set the pins on the height and we'll lay some concrete.
So as you can see right here, we're using the Cat 259, and we're just pulling the dirt back from the edges of where the footing is, just so in case it were to rain or in case it were to fall in, we don't have to go back and clean those footings out another time.
We're basically going to come in and clean out the rest of any of the loose debris today. Double check our measurements, start laying down the rebar, which you can see here in the back of the truck. And then tomorrow we'll come in and make sure everything's done. And on Monday at 10 a.m., we're going to pour this footing so that brick masons or the concrete masons can get in here, the block masons, I should say, get in and start laying the block. And we'll video some of that block laying and their techniques of how they get it all nice and straight and the lines pretty and the mortar joints looking good.
What happened to your shirt?
Oh, this is part of the little adventure we had earlier where one of our fire yard hydrants, my dad unfortunately hit it with one of the implements on the tractor, broke it. I didn't tell you that part of it. And guess who got to climb down in that hole and fix it? That'd be me. But anyway, it's fixed, and now his cows will have something to drink tonight, and we're good to go.
Okay, so a lot of times after you dig the footing with an excavator or, some piece of power equipment, you need to go back with a flat blade shovel and just level it all out. And as you can see, I got the transit beside me, so I'm just if there's any clumps of dirt or just anything that needs to be filled in or just dug out a little bit deeper, that's what I'm doing here. And it's a lot easier to do it with a flat blade shovel than to bring that big piece of equipment in. And again, this is probably one of my least favorite things to do, but it makes the building go so much easier if you got your footings done right. So we're at the end of day 2, and we're starting to put some of the rebar down. We got it all pretty much squared up except for this one channel, which I'll let Mr. Dobbins square up with the excavator since he was a little bit better than me. But tomorrow, hopefully, we get all this rebar put down and tied in, and then come Monday morning, today's Friday, so come Monday morning, hopefully we can pour the footing. We calculated it'll take about 8 cubic yards of concrete, which we're paying about $150 a yard, so whatever that comes out to, never really good at math. I guess that's why I'm building. But anyway, that's it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
This morning, while we've got some shade, which is outstanding, we're finishing up cleaning out all the footings. As you can turn here, been working on laying the rebar. And then a little later, we're going to drive some stakes in to get the level right so that when we pour on Monday, we can keep it nice and smooth. As I once heard by a wise man, concrete can level up anything. So when we do the concrete, any deviations in this ground and when we dug the footing, the concrete will actually be perfectly level. So when the masons come to lay the block later next week, they can zippity-doo and get this thing done quickly. Talk to you later.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm starting to tie the rebar to one another. So when you're putting rebar in, the footings, you want to make sure it's tied to the other pieces of rebar. And I'm also tying it to the rebar chairs. Now, the rebar chairs keep the rebar off the ground, so when you pour the concrete, the rebar is in the middle of it and not at the very bottom. And one of the other things that we had to do, since we do have a few drop-offs in the footing, is we had to bend the rebar. Now, I didn't know that you could buy already pre-bent rebar from, some specialty suppliers. So this is the best we had. And, we don't bend a lot of rebar. So it's just an all metal pipe and I'm just standing on it. Again, it looks pretty dangerous, but it really did get the job done. After the rebar was bent, a few pieces had to be cut to size since we do have steps in the footing. So I'm just measuring to make sure I cut it to the right size. And again, we don't have a rebar cutter or anything. This is just a simple DeWalt chop saw with a metal blade, and it does the job just fine. So what we're doing here is we're putting in the rebar for the step downs in the footing. So as you can see, the rebar is bent, and that's what we just did in the previous clips, and also that's why we cut it. So what we'll do is we'll attach the rebar to the smaller pieces of rebar at the bottom of the step, and then we'll also tie the rebar into the rebar chairs. So it's all tied in together. So when we pour the step downs of the footing, all of the rebar is tied in together, and it makes the concrete really strong. All right, so how are you tying this rebar together?
So real quickly, we use the most simple tool in the world, which basically takes the wire and allows you to spin it very quickly to tighten down the rebar, bringing down a piece of wire. That's, by the way, this wire is already pre-completed at the manufacturer with an end here and an end here that allows you to scoop through with the tool. So you fit the tool through the loops, and basically it's very simple. Once you get it through the loops, which I'm doing it slow, usually I'd be done by now, you just go slowly around and it tightens up the wire, which pulls the rebar tight together. Then you're good to go. As you can see behind us, we switched from the metal brackets to the plastic only because when we went to pick up some more metal, they were out of stock. So these will work just as well. I like the metal a little better, but nevertheless, these will work. And now we've gotten all the rebar laid. Last thing we'll do is we'll set the pins for the height of the concrete, and again, ready to lay on Monday.
So what we're doing here is we're driving pieces of rebar into the ground in the middle of our footing. So when we pour the concrete, we know exactly how high to pour the concrete. Now again, since we do have some step downs in this footing, all these pins are not going to be the same height. That's why you see me adjusting the transit here and there. But again, this way, when we pour the concrete, it makes it super easy, and we just pour it to the top of these grade pins.
Real quickly, we're just putting boards up, so when we go to the drops, the concrete will be held back. So at the end of the day, when we pour this concrete, we don't want it flowing into our second level or next level of concrete. So we're slamming these up real quick. Nothing neat, I mean, it's kind of neat, but it doesn't have to be perfect, just level with where the concrete's gonna be. And that's really it. That's all we're doing real quick.
All right, so as you can see, the footing is pretty much ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and pour the footing on Monday and, watch the next video and see what happens.